All right, I will say good morning. Good morning. Let us begin by thanking all of our sponsors for this morning's shir. To thank our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Elul, Baruch Meir and Rina Dubin, for dedicating over Shimon Drashos this month in honor of their children and all of the suburban sons and daughters beginning their year of study in Eretz Yisrael. May their Torah study and mitzvos in the Holy Land merit the release of our precious hostages, the success of our soldiers, the return to their families, and the arrival of Mashiach Tzidkin Lebimhira B'Yameinu. Amen. Our week of learning sponsors, Shmuel and Shira Artman, in appreciation to the entire community for the outpouring of love and support towards the Links organization. Baruch Hashem, so happy to see such a beautiful and successful community event. And our Daf Yomi sponsors, Gary Goodman, in commemoration of the recent yard site of his father, Mayor Herschel Ben Uri Yaakov Zichron Levrach. We hope to honor the merit of our Talmud Torah. The Neshama will have an Aliyah, the family in Nechama, and both say, Halavai, we should be Zochim Hashem to still tremendous and incredible Besoros Tovos for all of Klal Yisrael in these remaining days of Tafshin Pei Dalet. So with that, let us begin. So we have our daf today is Tzadik Gimel 93, and we left off on Tzadik Beis Amud Beis 92b. And we left off at Tashma. 4 lines up from the bottom, last word on the line. So Moses, remember again, just to reorient ourselves a little bit. So we are in the midst of a raging machlokes between Rav and Shmuel. So remember again, the Mishnah introduced us to this idea that when you sell something to someone, under what circumstances, if let's say again the intended use did not fully materialize, under what circumstances does a buyer have the ability to claim mekachtos? So essentially what the Mishnah says is, if there's any plausible use or any possibility that, let's take a step back. So really we had a machlokes in Rav and Shmuel, right? So that was our Mishnah. Under what circumstances can you claim mekachtos? Then there was a machlokes Rav and Shmuel. That machlokes really started on the following situation. Ruvain sells me an ox. It turns out that the ox is a goring ox. So do I come back, I say to Ruvain, I want my money back because I bought this ox for plowing. Ruvain says, well, I didn't know that, so you could just use it for shchita. So do I have the ability to claim mekachto? So this is machlokes Rav and Shmuel. Rav says yes, Shmuel says no. Shmuel's logic is l'shchita mechartiv. So it turned out that Ruvain could claim sold it to for shchita purposes. So it turned out, what's the machlokes Rav and Shmuel? What is it? Rav says we really go after rov. We go after rov, that even in monetary cases we go after rov. So for example, in the ox case, the majority of people who buy oxen buy for plowing purposes. So therefore, again, I have a right to say, Ruvain, we follow the rov, we follow the majority. Therefore, again, you should have known that you're selling me this for plowing purposes, and if it was a goring ox, you have an obligation to disclose. Shmuel says, we follow rov by iser, by prohibition. We do not follow rov by mammon. Rov does not apply in monetary cases. What principle do we apply in monetary cases? Hamotzi mechaber alav haraya. In monetary cases, whoever is holding on to the money is considered to be the muchzak, and if you want to go ahead and pull that money out, extract that money, alav haraya. The burden of proof is upon the extractor. So therefore, in this case, if I want my money back from Ruvain is now the muchzak. If I want my money back, that's fine. I have every right to initiate it in Torah, but the burden of proof is upon me to demonstrate that Ruvain should have known that I was buying this ox for plowing purposes. Good. So that's our machlokes, and now Amud Beis, Tzadik Beis Amud Beis was just a series of brisos aimed at supporting or deconstructing one of the two opinions of Rav and Shmuel. So let's go back to Tashma, and these are really interesting cases as we go along this journey. So Tashma, Hamocher Eved lechaver v'nimtza ganav al kobiustos. Interesting case over here. Ruvain sells me an Eved. Sells me a servant. It turns out that the servant is a thief or a kidnapper. Okay? Happens, right? So the mice again, it turns out that the Eved is a thief or a kidnapper. So obviously I'll say, I find this out, I go back to Ruvain, I say, Ruvain, I want my money back. I want my money back, this is not what I signed up for, mekachtos. So what's the halacha? We'll say, higiu. The sale is valid, and I do not have any claim for mekachtos. On the other hand, If it turns out that ultimately, again, this Eved is actually an armed robber. Now, listin mizuyin means, in this context, Rashbam points out, horig nefashos v'sofali horig, which means listin mizuyin, they don't only rob, but they kill people. They kill people in order to get what they want. So now, what this means is this guy has a death sentence hanging over his head, or muchtav l'malchus. Muchtav l'malchus means he's been condemned by the king to die. So in this case, it turns out that I bought an Eved who had a death sentence upon him. So what's the halacha? Omer lo harisha chalafanecha. In that case, I have the ability to return the Eved back to Ruvain and claim mekachtos. It's an interesting distinction over here. In case one, I bought the Eved from Ruvain, and it turns out that he's a thief or a kidnapper. No mekachtos. Case two, it turns out that he has a death sentence against him. That's mekachtos, and I could return the Eved to Ruvain and get my money back. So it says the Gemara. So now, I understand the second part, right? The second part makes sense because essentially a person with a death sentence on them, is dead, right? It's halachically considered as if they're dead. So obviously I didn't buy a dead Eved from Ruvain, I bought a living Eved from Ruvain. So now it turns out that Ruvain didn't disclose, right? Ruvain didn't disclose that the Eved has these death sentences against him. Okay, so that makes sense that that's a mekachtos. What about the first case? Why isn't that a mekachtos? So the Gemara says, Reisha, top of Tzadik Gimel 93a, Reisha, my taima. So why is it in the Reisha? Why is it in the first case that I can't claim mekachtos? It must be lav mishum deruba hachi isnu. So also I said it must be because it's a rov. Must be it's a rov. In other words, rov of avodim are thieves or kidnappers. They're thieves. They're thieves. That's the nature of avodim. So therefore, again, almost if what the Gemara is saying over here is, I should have known that. I should have known that. That's the rov. And you see that we go after the rov by mammon. We go after the rov by money, which again supports Rav and is against Shmuel. To which the Gemara says, no. This is a different case. The Gemara says, lo, kulu hachi isnu. This is not a case of rov. This is a case of kol. Rov says the majority. By avodim, it's much more than a rov. Again, I will say avodim were known for certain things. They were known for their immorality, and they were known ultimately, again, for theft. So, but when you purchase an Eved, it is not just a rov that the Eved is a thief, but it is almost a vadai, almost a certainty that the Eved is a thief. Take a look at the Rashbam, lav mishum deruba. So Rashi says, avadi hachi isnu ganavim o kobyustin, uledas kein kino halokeach, ukimo shekibel alav. Dummy. So I will say, so it's incredible. This is not even a rov, the Gemara says. This is a vadai. He says, and therefore when you purchase an Eved, it is almost as if, not almost as if, you accept this reality upon yourself. So he says, Alma b'mamona azlinan basaruba, v'kashya l'shmuel, d'chivan delo azil basaruba, kipalga upalga dami, v'imkena mahigiu, hari. So we'll say, so therefore again, halacha l'maisa. The Gemara says it's not really a good case because this is a case of vadai. Fine. So on to our next case. Tashma. Shoshnaga chasapara v'nimtzo oro bezida. So we'll say, so again, we are still locked in to our machlokes Rav and Shmuel. So Tashma. Shoshnaga chasapara v'nimtzo obra bezida. So let's go weiter. I have an ox that gored a cow. Okay, we've seen this case, supposed to say Baba Kama case. So I say, so then what happens? And now the cow was pregnant, and afterwards we find the fetus, the calf, by the side of the mother. So the mother miscarried, right? What's our shaila? Did our mother miscarry? Right? Did the mother miscarry before the goring or after the goring, or as a result of the goring? Because we'll say obviously if it's before the goring, then the owner of the ox is responsible for the mother, not responsible for the fetus. But if it's as a result of the goring, then obviously then the owner of the ox is responsible both for the mother and the fetus. Now we don't know. Here's what we know. I know I have an ox that gored. I know I have a mother, and now the fetus, right? So both were injured or killed by the goring. So that's what I know. That's what I have in front of me. I have an injured mother, and now again the mother delivered the fetus. So what I don't know is the progression of events. I don't know the timeline. Did the mother miscarry before the goring, goring, or did the mother miscarry as a result of the goring? So the Gemara says, so what's talacha? Mishalim chatzi nezek lepara. So ultimately the owner of the ox has to go ahead and pay half damages, chatzi nezek, for the para, for the cow, or revia nezek, or revia levlad, and quarter damages for the fetus. For the fetus. So the Gemara says, but one second. Why is it? Obviously, we're talking. If you look at the Rashbam says over here, Chatzi nezek lepara, the short tam, mishalim chatzi nezek. So we're assuming over here that we're talking about a short tam, right? First time offender. So therefore, it's chatzi nezek to begin with, and then revia nezek levlad. Rashbam says mishum the chatzi nezek devlad have mamon hamutal b'safek for cholkin. So we're gonna see this in just a little bit, that because we don't know about the fetus, so therefore again you only pay half of the half, right? It's mamon hamutal b'safek. So it would be chatzi nezek at most, but we're not sure again. Was it the goring that caused the mother to miscarry or not? Therefore, you pay half of the half, which is a quarter damages. Okay, we saw that in Bava Kama. So we'll say, now watch this. The Gemara says, this is interesting, but why don't we say, Lema halach achar rov paros? Why don't we apply the concept of rov over here? Now, both say, what would the concept of rov say? The rov paros misabros violdos. The majority of cows that become pregnant, what happens? They deliver, and they deliver normally. So the Gemara says, "Vaha vadai machmas negicha hepila," and therefore, why don't we say that according to the laws of rov, this cow certainly miscarried because of the goring. In other words, what Rov says is like this. Rov says that the majority of pregnant cows deliver normally. Therefore, in this case, if we see that the cow delivered prematurely, and we know that the mother was gored, let us say that the Rov dictates to us that the mother miscarried as a result of the goring. Use rov. And therefore, again, I'll say what that would do is, what would that do? You hear this? So what would that do? That would essentially say, based on rov, we know for sure that the ox gored the mother and caused the mother to miscarry. If that's the case, then what are you going to pay for the mother? Still same chatzi nezek, because this is tam. But what should you pay for the ubra? What should you pay for the fetus? Also chatzi nezek. Remember again, the Mishnah, the Gemara said that you're paying quarter damages for the fetus. The reason for that is because it's mamon hamutal b'safek. We don't know. Did the cow miscarry because of the ox or not? So because it's mamon hamutal b'safek cholkin, we essentially, whenever you have money in doubt, you split it. That's sumchus. Rabbanan say motzi b'chaver lavaraya, but sumchus says cholkin, so it'll be quarter damages. And the Gemara says, I don't understand. Nor does the rule say, the fact that you're paying half damages for the mother, that everybody agrees with. What the Gemara is suggesting is, if you follow Rov would say, essentially, that Rov would dictate that we know with halachic certainty that the mother miscarried because of the goring. And therefore, again, the owner of the ox should have to pay full half damages for the fetus as well. But obviously the fact that we don't say that indicates that we don't accept rov when it comes to Mammon, which is an argument against Rab and a support for Shmuel, to which the Gemara says, no. The truth is this case is a little bit different. It's actually fascinating. Why is this case different? Hasa mishum de mesapkalam. Let's say this case actually has multiple layers of suffix. Watch this, fascinating. What are the multiple layers of suffix? Number one, the ikala meimar mikama asa umibi usehipila. One possibility is that the cow saw the ox charging at it, and as a result of fear, it miscarried. In other words, it didn't miscarry because of the actual goring. It miscarried because of the fear of the impending goring that was about to occur. The other possibility is, no, the ox actually gored it, and therefore caused it to go ahead and miscarry, and therefore it's mamon hamutal b'safek, right? We're not sure, is there a monetary obligation or not? And anytime you have a doubt about monetary liability, we split that money. So both say, what the Gemara is just pointing out over here is, even if you would normally accept rov, let's say even if you would accept it, this case is still different because there's so many elements of suffix over here, right? So I was like, there's like an over. So in other words, even if you want to say, let's just go through this again. What rov would do in this case, right? What would rov do in this case of the goring of the pregnant mother? What would rov accomplish? Rov would allow you to say that the mother miscarried based on the goring. That's what Rov would allow you to accomplish, right? Because Rov animals go ahead and carry full term. So Rov would allow you to say this mother miscarried because of the goring. Here's the problem. Even if you want to say that the mother miscarried, quote unquote, because of the goring, what does that mean? Is it the fear of the impending goring? Now, if the mother miscarries because of the fear of the impending goring, would the owner of the ox be responsible for that? Would the owner of the ox be responsible for that? No. Because in halacha, what do we call that? That's called grama. That's called causation. And generally, again, you're not chayiv mamon for grama. So did the cow miscarry because of the fear of the impending goring, or did it miscarry because it was actually gored? We don't know. We don't know. And therefore, again, this is a case of mamon amotel b'safek. So therefore, I know for sure that the owner of the ox is going to be obligated for chatzi nezek, half damages for the cow. That we all agree on. But because I really don't know what happened with the calf, so therefore again it's going to be mamon amotel b'safek and mamon amotel b'safek cholkin, right? I really don't know what happened, and therefore again it's a possible or doubtful claim, and therefore again we split it, which means you'll only pay quarter damages. Now let's say I just do want to point out to you. So remember again, there's a whole other side to this discussion. What's the whole other side to this discussion? The sheet of the Rabbanon, which says hamotzi mechavera alav haraya, which would be where the owner of the ox says to the owner of the cow, listen, I know that I owe you half damages for the cow, that's for sure, but I'm not paying you anything for the calf until you're able to prove to me that damages occurred because of my goring, because of my ox's goring. So again, we're not going with that opinion, we're going with the opinion of sumchos. Fine, so we'll say, so therefore again, let's go full circle. Remember, what are we trying to do? We were trying to prove that you clearly see from here that you don't hold by rov, by mamon, which would be against Rav, support for Shmuel, but Allah Chamaisa, the Gemara just essentially points out that this case is different. I will say, I'll tell you something, it's such a profound Musar Haskell in this Gemara, right? If you look at that line, the Gemara says, Di'ikala meimar, mikama asar, o mebi ususa hepila. The one possibility is the cow saw the ox coming at it, and as a result miscarried. See, I will say, fear right, in this case, the Shailas, did fear cause the cow to miscarry? Fear is a very powerful thing. And sometimes what fear causes is the miscarrying of life opportunity. Sometimes we become so paralyzed by fear or so overwhelmed by fear, whatever it might be, fear of the unknown, fear of risk, that it causes us chas v'shalom to miscarry. It causes us to lose out on opportunities. You know, Rashi has a beautiful lashon. Rashi by the Akedah. Rashi on the pasuk that says, "Vayashkim Avram baboker vayachavoshes chamaro." Avram Avinu woke up in the morning and he saddled his donkey. So Rashi finds it interesting that Avram Avinu was saddling his own donkey. He's got a guy for that. He's got a donkey guy. Everybody's got a donkey guy, right? So he has to saddle his own donkey. So what's the lashon of Rashi over there? Ava makalkel es ashura, right? That literally love disrupts the natural order. Pasuk says by Bilam, Vayashkem Bilam baboker. Bilam also got up early in the morning and saddled his donkey. Doesn't Bilam have a guy? So Rashi says over there, Sina makalkel es ashura. Hatred, right? Intense emotion often disrupts the natural order of things. So I've often thought that there's a third emotion that's in there, along with love and along with hatred, and it's pachad, it's fear. Fear disrupts rational thinking. Fear disrupts the natural order of things. I always say, we experienced so much of this. We lived through this during COVID. So much, right? Where there was that disruption between rational thought and science and just fear. And we saw it first, and obviously we were dealing with such an unknown, and there was so much fear. And so again, there's Ava Makalkel as Ashura, so love disrupts the natural order, so hatred disrupts the natural order, and fear disrupts the natural order. And the Gemara says sometimes you're so fearful of something coming at you that what happens? You miscarry. What does it mean to miscarry? So when the cow had this calf, the cow was holding life, the cow had the potential to accomplish something, and because of that fear of this unknown, because of the fear, it miscarried that opportunity. How many times in life are we faced with dramatic opportunities for growth, dramatic opportunities for happiness, dramatic opportunities for self-actualization, but I'm so scared. I'm so scared. I'm scared. And not that the fear is even illegitimate. Sometimes I'm just scared. I'm scared of the unknown. I'm scared of the what if. I'm scared. So what happens? I miscarry. I drop the ball. I'm just so scared of what if. Just so scared of what if. And meanwhile, you know what's interesting about charging oxen? Charging oxen? I don't know if this is true actually, but it's going to be true metaphorically. Just stare it down, and it often goes away. Right? Sometimes you just have to stare down. Again, don't, I want to go on record, don't. With charging oxen, just get out of the way. Get out of the way. But metaphorically in life, sometimes those things in life that are charging at us, that we're so ridiculously afraid of, just look it in the eye and stare it back. And often what ends up happening is, number one, you actually don't have that much to be fearful of. And amazingly enough, other times the ox changes course. Because when your fears see that you're staring them back and you're not backing down, often whatever that thing that you're fearful of often changes course or backs down. But don't miscarry the opportunities in life because you're afraid of the charging oxen of existence. Such a profound life yesod. Lema kitanai. So the Gemara says, maybe this whole thing Abai and Rava, Rav and Shmuel, is a machlokes tanoim. So here we go. Shorshai Arah v'nimtza. So here we go. Another case. So I'll say Shorshai Arah v'nimtza. Shor harug b'tzido. It's an interesting case. So we'll say, imagine the following situation. You have an ox. That was grazing in the field, and you find another dead ox by its side. Right? So I have ox A, ox Aleph is doing its thing grazing in the field, and then ox B is found dead by the side of ox A. So the Gemara says, what's the halacha? Ava pisha zeh megunach, v'zeh muad ligach, zeh menushach, v'zeh muad lishach. So we'll say, now let's say this. Let's say ox A is known to be a goring ox, and ox B has clearly been killed by goring. Or ox A is known to be a biting ox, and ox B has died as a result of bite wounds. So I will say, so again, it sounds like the circumstantial evidence is there to say that ox A killed ox B. Ein omrim biyadua shezed nakol v'zed nashchol. So I'll say, Tanakama says, look, even though circumstantially it looks like ox A, right, killed ox B, you actually cannot make the owner of ox A chayiv. Right? Based on that circumstantial evidence, you cannot go ahead and make ox A pay the owner of ox B. Rabbi Acha brings down another case. He says as follows. So fine. So Rashbam says over here, Ein Omrim. If you look at Rashbam, said the wide lines about 8 lines in. Drabanan lo azli basar umdina. Va'afilu ma'an amoto b'safek lo havi l'shalom ipalga. Deman lemale shezeh nagcho hoil v'ika shvarem achirim. For lo damer, so we'll say, so again, so essentially the Rabbanon, now we're kind of exploring a little bit of a different concept over here. This is called umdina. Umdina essentially means circumstantial evidence. Right? So the Rabbanon, the rabbis, do not follow umdina. Again, I will say, the Rabbanon are always consistent. Whenever it comes to money, the Rabbanon always follow the same principle, which is, hamotzi mechaver alav haraya. That's it. I got it. I understand what it looks like circumstantially. Prove it. You want to, right? Owner of ox B, you want to extract money from ox A, prove it. We're open to it, right? If you could prove it, absolutely it's yours, but circumstantial evidence is not enough. So that's the Rabbanon. Rabbi Acha says, what's this? Gama ha'ochar ben ha'gemalim, v'nimtzal garag harag b'tzido. So we'll say, so apparently, it's interesting fact about camel mating. So apparently, when camels mate, they get a little bit lebedig, especially the males, right? The males get a little bit lebedig, and they often start up and kick and whatever with other males. I don't know that it's a Shabbos table thing, but interesting nevertheless. Listen. Sometimes when there's that moment that no one has a Dvar Torah, you gotta be that guy. And by the way, nothing will move the meal along faster than a Dvar Torah about camel mating. And so the Gemara says, so when you go ahead and the camels mate, so the male becomes a little bit lebedig, and he injures. It's common for him to injure other males in the chevra, camel flock, right? So what happens? So let's listen to this. So if you have a camel, right, a male who is mating, and there's a dead camel next to him. Camel next. What's the halacha? Biadua shezehargo. So Rav Acha says we know for sure that the mating camel killed this other camel. So the Gemara says, so what do you see from here? So both say, so now obviously what is Rav Acha saying? So Rabbi Acha. Take a look at the Rashbam. Rabbi Acha Omer Basra Umdina Azil Bedine Mamanas. So Rabbi Acha says we go essentially after circumstantial evidence. Right, that's halach Basra Umdina. So just want to point out this is a machlokes in Umdina. The Rabbanan say we don't go after Umdina, we don't go after circumstantial evidence. Rabbi Acha says we do go after. Now both say the Gemara assumes over here Savrua the Ruba v'Chazaka ki adadinenu. Now both say now essentially Umdina is kind of like Chazaka. Umdina is like Chazaka. We're presupposing right now, there's a lot of presuppositions going on over here, that Umdina is like Chazaka, and that Rov is like Chazaka. So therefore again, Rabbi Acha says that you could go after Umdina, which is Chazaka, by the camels, would also agree that in Mammon, you could go after Rov. And the Rabbanon who say that you don't go after Umdina, that is like Chazaka, would also say that you don't go after Rov. So what do you see from here? There's a Machlokes Tanaim of Israel, Machlokes Rabbanon and Rabbi Acha. And that's the same machlokes Rav and Shmuel. To which the Gemara says, "Lema Rav d'Amar Rabbi Acha, Shmuel d'Amar Rabbi Tanakama." Rav holds like Rabbi Acha, right? Rav who goes after Rov by Mammon would hold like Rabbi Acha, who goes after Umdina Chazaka, that's like Rov. Shmuel d'Amar Tanakama. Amar l'Charav, the Gemara says, no. Rav will say absolutely not. Amar l'Charav, Anadam Yafilu Tanakama. So Rav says, not true. I even go after the Tanakama. I hold like the Tanakama. How so? Ad kama komer Tanakama hasam ela dulo azlinan basar chazaka aval basar ruba azlinan. So Rava says, guys, Rov and Chazak are not the same thing. Rov and Chazak are two different halachic mechanisms. The Rabbanon reject the concept of Chazaka as a determinant by Mammon, but the Rabbanon absolutely could hold by Rov. We've seen this before, right? That Rov and Chazak are really two very different things. Chazaka says that essentially there's a presumption that things are a certain way. Rov is a statistical probability. Two very different things, right? So the Gemara, so Rava says, okay, in this case, the rabbis are saying we don't use Chazaka as a determinant by Mammon, but maybe the Rabbanan would say we do use Rov. Shmuel says, Shmuel Amar Lacha, Anadam Yafilu Rabbi Acha. Shmuel says the truth is, I think my position works even according to Rabbi Acha. How so? The Gemara says, "Akal Rabbi Acha hasam ela delazina basar chazaka duhu gufei muchzak." So say Rabbi Acha holds that halacha lemaisa, that in this case we go after chazaka. The Rabbi say, now what's the strength of chazaka? The strength of chazaka is a din in the entity itself, right? For example, in the camel case, right? So what's the chazaka? The chazaka is that mating camels get violent. That's chazaka. That is a status in the entity itself. That's very different than rov. So in other words, rov, or essentially to say it differently, chazaka is an internal status, rov is an external status. So maybe Rabbi Acha holds that Chazaka, which is an internal status, could be a determinant by Mammon, but Rov, which is an external status, is not a determinant. So the Gemara says, "Look, I've called Rabbi Acha Hasam Ella does labas Chazaka duhu gufei mochzak." The camel itself. In other words, the Chazaka is a din in the camel itself. Aval basa ruba lo azlinan. But who's to say we go after Rov? Who's to say we go after Rov? So you hear the distinction there. So there's a lot of very interesting ideas, just not Umdana, Chazaka, Rov, but point over here is our attempt to show that the Machlokes Rav and Shmuel is in fact a Machlokes Tanaim failed, because that machlokes Rabbi Acha and the Rabbanon, we tried to align Rabbi Acha with Rav. Rabbanon like Shmuel, and Rav and Shmuel could easily say no, because this is not a Rov case. Not a Rov case. You made the leap of equating Umdana with Chazaka. Okay, so that's not really a leap. That's true. But then you made the leap of equating Chazaka with Rov. And all the Gemara says is there are two different halachic mechanisms of determination. Incredible. Let's go back to Tashma. Both say four lines are from the bottom. Tashma. Hamocha peres techavero. Bizarre v'lo tzamchu. So also we have a price that's very much like our Mishnah. So what happens? I sell Ruvain. I sell peiros to Ruvain, or seeds, produce to Ruvain, and Ruvain goes ahead and plants them, and they do not sprout. So what's the halacha? Filu zera pishtan inu chai bachar yusan. Right? Even if halacha l'maisa, right? Mishnah. Even if I sold him flax seed, right, and he planted it, and it does not sprout, Ruvain has no claim against me. No claim against me. Maya filu. Now, what does it say when the lashon of Mishnah was va'afilu zera pishtan? Why does it say afilu? Why even? So lav afilu zera pishtan deruba lezriya zabni, because it must be remembering. I will say when it comes to flaxseed, the majority of people that plant flaxseed are planting it for what purpose? Or I should say, the majority of people who purchase the majority of people who purchase flax seed are purchasing it for what purpose? Planting. So the Gemara, listen to this. So my love afilu zerapish and the ruba lizriya zabni afilu hachi lo azlina basaruba. And the Mishnah is teaching me that even though I know the majority of people who purchase flaxseed are doing so for planting purposes, so now I come back to Ruvain and I say, Ruvain, I bought the flaxseed from you and it didn't sprout anything, and the majority of people buy flaxseed for planting. You knew I was buying it for planting. I want my money back. Even so, the Mishnah says, I have no claim against Ruvain. Why not? Because we don't go after Rov when it comes to Mammon. To which the Gemara says, Tanaihi. Let's go back again. It's Machlokes Tanaim. How so? The Sanyo. Hamocha Peres Lachaver of Israel Malot Samchu. I sell produce to Ruvain, and Ruvain plants it and it doesn't sprout anything, or Zarone Gina She'enon Echalan Chai Bachar Yusan, or for that matter again, I sell Ruvain Zarone Gina. Now we saw in the Mishnah, Zarone Gina are seeds that are only used for planting. They're not used for anything else. Old She'enon Echalan, they're not consumable. Chai Bachar Yusan. Ultimately, in that case, I am responsible. Zara pishtan eno chai bachar yusan. If I sold him flaxseed and he planted it and nothing came out of it, I'm not responsible for the failure for the flax seed to sprout. Rabbi Yossi says, Rabbi Yossi Omer, Amud Bezer will say, Rabbi Yossi Omer, no sin lo deme zera. Rabbi Yossi says, no, for flaxseed, I have to give him back his money. Why? Because Rashbam points out over, Rabbi Yossi says that halacha l'maisa, the majority of flaxseed is used for planting. Amrulo, so we'll say they said to him. I just want to point out over here, this is a third opinion. Right? So in this third opinion, right, we had the Rabbanon. The Rabbanon said that ultimately, again, if I sold Ruvain Zaroni Gina, the type of seeds that are planted, that are only bought for planting, right, then Aloch Lamaisam Chayiv, and it doesn't work out, I'm Chayiv to give him back his money. I gave him Zera Pishtan, I gave him flaxseed, I sold him flaxseed, it doesn't sprout, I'm not responsible. So it sounds like according to the Rabbanon, we say, we don't go after Rov when it comes to Mammon. Then Rabbi Yossi comes along and says, no, even Zera Pishtan, if I sold it to him and it doesn't sprout, I'm obligated to give him back his money. Which sounds like Rabbi Yossi holds, we do go after Rov when it comes to Mammon. Amrulo, they said to him, this is a third opinion. Amrulo, harbe lokhin also l'dvar macherim. So he said to Rabbi Yossi, by flaxseed, there are many people who buy flaxseed for all kinds of reasons. And therefore halacha l'maisa, if the flaxseed does not sprout, I am not obligated to go ahead and give Ruvain back his money. Okay, so the Gemara says, let's go. So now the Gemara wants to suggest that this discussion represents our machlokes tanoim, which lines up with the machlokes Rav and Shmuel. So the Gemara says, man tanoi. Okay, so who is the machlokes? So there's three opinions expressed over this: Rabbanon, Rabbi Yossi, and Amrulo. They, whoever the they, said to him. So who's the machlokes between? Here we go. Ilema Rabbi Yossi v'Amrulo. If we see Rabbi Yossi and Amrulo, Tarvayu Basaruba Azli. Both of them go after the rov. So the Gemara says, Mar Azil Basaruba de Inshi, Umar Azil Basaruba de Zriya. So this is interesting. So I will say, so they just apply rov differently. One applies rov as what we call Basaruba de Inshi, the majority of people, versus one uses rov for the majority of how the seed could be used. Okay, but they both subscribe to the concept of rove vis-a-vis dinei mamanis. Eli Tanakam Rabbi Yossi, Tanakam va'amrulo. Rather, you have to say the machlokes sometimes either the Tanakam Rabbi Yossi or the Tanakama ultimately again in amrulo. So the point over here is, I will say, the point over here is we've now successfully shown that the machlokes Rav and Shmuel as to whether or not we apply rove to mamon is in fact a machlokes tanoim. Now again, we don't have resolution, but we now know that this is not just simply machlokes Rav and Shmuel, but this is in fact a much bigger machlokes tanoim. So I will say, so now we've solidified and concretized our fundamental machlokes. Can we apply can we utilize the mechanism of rove as a determinant in monetary matters? Machlokes. Okay, now watch this. Let's build out the conversation before we get to the resolution. Tan Rabbanon, ma'u nosino. So we'll say this is very interesting. So now the shaila becomes as follows. So we'll say, let's go with the case that everybody agrees with, right? What's the case everybody agrees with? I sell Ruvain Zarone Gina. I sell him seeds for planting that are not used for consumption at all. These are only planting seeds. So Rabbi say, now I sell them to Ruvain. So I sell him a handful of seeds for $100. He plants them, nothing sprouts. Nothing sprouts. What's the halacha? What's the halacha? Mekachtos. He could come back to me, and everybody agrees with that because again, these seeds can't be used for anything else. The only reason you buy them is for planting. It didn't work out for the planting, assuming there's no fault on Ruvain's part, right? It didn't work out planting. Therefore, Ruvain can claim Mekachtos. You sold me faulty product, faulty merchandise, and therefore I want my money back. Beautiful. Everyone agrees with that case. Watch this. Mahu no sino. So we'll say the shaila is when Ruvain gets his money back, does he get any other monies back as well? So watch this. Mahu no sino. Demei zera velo hotza. So the first opinion says, now remember again, when Ruvain comes back to me and wants his money back, Ruvain is not just going to be asking for the value of the seeds. What else is he going to be asking for? Right? There are other expenses now. He bought topsoil, right? He hired some guys to help out with the work. So now there's a whole bunch of other associated expenses with this planting. So it could be that when Ruvain comes back to me, he's going to say, Silber, give me back my $100 for the seed, and also you owe me another $50 for expenses. So the Tanakama says no, Ruvain gets back the money for his seeds. He does not get back any expenses. No expenses. Now the Rashbam says, what's the logic of the Tanakama? Why doesn't he get expenses? Because those monies are grama. It's causation. It's not direct damage, and therefore Allah Lamaisa again, I'm not chayiv for that. The Yesh Omrim af hotzah. The Yesh Omrim say that Allah Lamaisa, he even gets his hotzah. Ultimately, again, he even gets expenses. I'm saying, look at the Rashbam for just a moment, it's incredible. The Rashbam says, af hotzah, yitzias charishos schar pa'olim, right? The amount, the expenses for plowing, the money for workers. Why? V'nira be'enai diknasahu. The Rashbam says, I think it's a penalty. It's a penalty. So Tanakama says you get back the cost of your seeds, but you don't get back any other damages because it's grama. The Yesh Omrim say you get back your seeds and the damages. It's a knas. It's a penalty. So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Chisda, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. I'm sorry, Man Yesh Omrim. Who is the Yesh Omrim who says that not only does Ruvain get back the money for his seeds, but he also gets back expenses? That's Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. The Gemara says, okay, hey Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, which Rabbi Shimon Gamliel are you referring to? If it's Rabbi Shimon Gamliel of the Mishnah, Disnan Hamocher Peros the Chavero Uzran Velot Samchu Vafilu Zera Pishtan Enu Chai Bachri Yusan. So if you want to say it's Rabbi Shimon Gamliel of our Mishnah, right? What did our Mishnah say? Right? I sell Ruvain produce, right? And Ruvain goes ahead and plants it, and nothing comes out, right? Even if it's flax seed, Ruvain has no claim against me. So the Gemara says. Ema Seifa, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer Zarone Gina Sheinachal and Chai Bachri Yusan. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says that if I sold Ruvain, again the type of seeds that are only planted, then what? Then halacha l'maisa, Ruvain does have a claim against me. So the Gemara says, Tanakama nami hachi kamar, zera pishtanu de'enu chai bachri yusan, ha zarone gina she'inechon chai bachri yusan. So here's what's interesting. It turns out everyone agrees in the case of zarone gina, right? In other words, even the Tanakama was only arguing in the case of pishtan, because one could say by the case of pishtan, the majority of flaxseed that is bought for is bought for, ultimately again, is bought for planting purposes, right? That's the majority of flaxseed that is bought for planting purposes. Even so, the Tanna Kama rejects the concept of rove. So you see from here that both the Tanna Kama and Rabbi Shmuel Silber both agree that in the case of Zaron Egina, seeds for planting, that halacha l'maisa, if it doesn't sprout, you get your money back. So if that's the case, what are the Tanna Kama and Rabbi Shmuel Silber arguing about? Elav hotza ika beinahu. So also, interestingly enough, the Tanna Kama and Rabbi Shmuel Silber must be arguing about the fact that do you get additional expenses back in addition to the value that you paid for the seeds? The Gemara says, Mar savar demei zera, Mar savar af hotza. One opinion says, maybe again, Tanna Kama holds, you'll get back the value of your seeds, but not expenses. And Rabbi Shmuel Silber says, you'll get back seeds plus expenses. To which the Gemara says, I don't know, maybe not. Right? So ultimately, I'm going to say maybe it's just the opposite. Maybe the Tanna Kama holds that you get back the value of your seeds and expenses. And Shmuel holds you just get back seeds and not expenses. To which Shmuel says, no, halokashia. Koltana Basra tafuye milsa kaasi. That's not true. Because Shmuel said the way Mishnayos works is every subsequent Tana in the Mishnah comes to add on something additional. So therefore, again, if the Tanna Kama is coming along to say that in the case of Zaron Egina, right, in seeds that are only used for planting, even the Tanna Kama agrees that if it doesn't sprout, you get your money back. Rabbi Shmuel Silber comes along, he's coming to add something on. What is he coming to add on? That when you get your money back for the seeds, you also what? Are entitled to associated expenses. Okay, maybe in fact the entire Mishnah is Rabbi Shmuel Silber, and maybe again there's part missing from the Mishnah. In other words, maybe halacha l'maisa, there's actually something missing in the Mishnah. What's missing? Here we go. If I sell peros to Ruvain, and Ruvain plants them, and they don't sprout, even if it's flaxseed, again, the majority of flaxseed normally is bought for planting purposes, still, Ruvain doesn't have a claim against me. So the Gemara says, but I will say, but if I sold Ruvain, Zaron Egina, right? If I sold Ruvain ultimately again seeds that are only planted, exclusively planted, never consumed, then ultimately again, and they don't sprout, I am chayiv for that. Why? Rabbi Shmuel Silber Omer Zera Pishnahu Deino Chay Bachri Yusan Zaron Egina Sheinechal Chay Bachri Yusan. So maybe the entire Mishnah, maybe in ours we thought the Mishnah was a machlokas Tanna Kama Shmuel Silber. Maybe not. Maybe the entire Mishnah is Rabbi Shmuel Silber. So therefore again, if that's the case, then all I'm walking away from our Mishnah is that if I sell Ruvain's seed that is exclusively planted, I get my money back if it doesn't sprout. But that doesn't say anything regarding expenses. So rather the Gemara says you're right. Rather let's refer to a different position from Gamliel. The Sanya, here we go. This is actually a fascinating case. So we'll say now watch this. Let's at least start this today. Really fascinating case. I give wheat to the grinder to grind. In other words, I bring wheat to the grinder to make it into flour. And we'll say what happens? Velo lasasan. Now the Rashban points out over here lasam mayim. So apparently everyone knows that before you grind wheat, you have to moisten the wheat. Otherwise, the flour doesn't come out with the right consistency. I go ahead. I gave the wheat to the grinder, and he forgot to moisten the stalks, and therefore, as a result, va'asan subin or morsan. Subin and morsan are bran, coarse bran, fine bran. The point is, he ruined it. He ruined, not totally ruined it. In other words, it's usable, but as opposed to being fine flour, it's now bran. Or kemach lenachtum va'afal pasni pulin. Or I gave flour to the baker to make bread for me, and it turns out that he made, I will say, pasni pulin is literally again is crumbly bread, right? Literally collapsed bread. It falls into pieces. Okay. The Gemara says, or behemel tabach v'nibla, or I give an animal to a butcher to go ahead and shecht it, and what happens? He makes it into an avela, right? He ruins the animal through the shechita. In all of these cases, chayim mipnei kinosei schar. So we'll say this is actually fascinating. In all of these cases, so the merchant or the service provider is chayiv, right? Why is he chayiv? Because a service provider is considered to be like a shomer sacher, a paid custodian, and a paid custodian, about say, is chayiv. It's chayiv, right? Again, these are cases. Therefore, again, it's going to be chayiv. Look at the Rashbam. So the Rashbam says second white line. So this is actually very interesting. So if you, just as an aside, if you asked any of these people to go ahead and do a favor and this stuff happened, they would not be chayiv. But if you're paying them for their service, then they're like a shom. So we'll have to stop here for today. We're going to pick up. So remember again, just where we're leaving off. We're now trying to figure out, even if you go with this idea that halacha, so we still have our machlokes, Rav and Shmuel, does rov play a role ultimately again in dinei mamanis? We'll have to resolve that tomorrow. But I will say either way, let's talk about a case where I definitely have to refund the money. Let's say Zaroni Gina, where I have to refund the money. What am I refunding? Is it just the money paid, or does Reuven have a right to sue for additional expenses as well? So the Gemara wants to suggest that's a machlokas, resolution of that Amir Hashem, and who holds what Amir Hashem tomorrow. Shkoyach. All right, have a great day, everyone.